Straight up. Welcome back. Happy Bible Study. And we are still talking about the sixth seal. There's so much information to go over. I want to give you some more scriptures. Go to Luke 21. Now, we're going to go through these scriptures here. Let's start at verse 8. And I want to show you something here. This, in verse 8 of Luke 21, you can see the first seal. In verse 9, you hear the second seal. Let's start at 8. And he said, "Take heed that ye be not deceived." Now notice, take heed that ye be not deceived. If you don't take heed not to be deceived, you will be deceived. You must take heed purposely not to be deceived. If you do not take heed, you will be deceived. Take heed that ye be not deceived, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ. And the time draweth near, go ye not therefore after them. Our Antichrist is Pope Francis. I pegged that sneaky sucker in 2014, or maybe even in 2013. He is the one. He's the only guy on the entire planet who qualifies for the position. And it shouldn't really be that hard, because it should be a no-brainer, really, because he's the only one on the planet who dares to sit on a throne in the house of God, allowing, with a crown on his head, and allowing world leaders to come and bow down to him and kiss his nasty ring. Ooh, well, that's gross. So we have the Antichrist right here. This is seal number 1. In verse 9, when you shall hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass, but the end is not by and by. Now the seals have been opening at a consistent rate of 1 per year since 2013, when the snake in a dress, Antichrist Pope, got his crown 3/13/13. Now, so we have our Antichrist, that's first seal. Second seal, peace taken from the earth in 2014. We had, in 2014, you had a situation where out of 196 countries, only 10 nations were not involved in some kind of war, revolution, internal conflict, struggle, skirmish, or something, civil war. Only 10 nations out of 196. That's peace taken from the earth, okay? In verse 10, then said he unto them, nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And we've seen that, and it's very specific where he says kingdom against kingdom. Look in the Middle East, you've got a whole Middle East full of kingdoms. In verse 11, and great earthquakes shall be in diverse, which means unusual, places, and famines and pestilences and fearful sights and great signs shall there be from heaven. So he's surmising here. You have The famines, that's third seal. Pestilences, that's fourth seal. And fearful sights and great signs shall there be from heaven. We've had a huge increase in signs in the sun, moon, and stars just since 2013. Well, actually, just since, really since 2016, a greater increase. But we've had comets and things like that come by, which are at it's unusual for so many to arrive. Okay. In verse 12, but before all these, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. Now, this is the last 2,000 years working up to the time when Israel would become a nation again. This covers them, and it also would cover the Holocaust, wouldn't it? In verse 13, and it shall turn to you for a testimony. In verse 14, settle it therefore in your hearts not to meditate before what ye shall answer. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. And ye shall be betrayed both by parents and brethren, and kinsfolks and friends, and some of you shall they cause to be put to death. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. Everybody hates Israel, don't they? But there shall not an hair of your head perish. Now, I think that is evidence of a simulation right there, because we all know that we die, our hairs of these digital bodies perish. But if it's VR that we're inside, then our real body is outside of our range of perception, and not a single hair of your head will perish. In verse 19, in your patience possess ye your souls. Be patient and you will live. Okay, be patient and wait and watch for him and never give up. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies. Now this is future. This is probably after the evacuation, when Jerusalem would be compassed with armies. Then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. I'm sorry, this is my daughter, so I have to get it. Forgive me. Yes, my love. No, thank you. Okay, bye. She's on her way home from her class. She went off. I wanted taco. Not this time. Okay. No, normally I would say yes, and that's why she called me, I think. When you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Now, the desolation, this particular word is used to describe the defiling of the temple. So that we have the defiling of the temple on our timeline at January 20th, 2019. That would be when the midpoint, and that time forward would be the second half, which is Israel's tribulation. Okay. And if we leave in September, that would be just about right. After we leave, Israel's support is gone, and then all of a sudden you've got armies surrounding. Okay. So now this word desolation means the defiling of the temple. So it's saying when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, you know that the defiling of the temple is getting close. Okay. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. That's Aliyah. He's saying, do not make Aliyah out of the countries in which you are hidden. Do not go to Israel and live there. That is a warning here to the Jewish people. Do not enter into Israel from the nations that he has dispersed them into, because they are going to be the first to die. Okay? And if you live in Israel and you can leave now, leave now. That's what I advise you. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. These things are going to show the fulfillments of the rest of the prophecies. Now, let's go over to Matthew now. Matthew 24. And let's look at verse 24. Okay. Well, let's go to... all right. Let's go to verse 11. Okay. Or actually, verse 8 shows the beginning of sorrows. That's when the seals start opening. But these scriptures also apply for 70 AD and their effects. Okay. That is fulfilled. But these also apply to our generation as well. So let's start at verse 11. And many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. There's your first seal. Because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. Well, we've seen that happen, haven't we? But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. Now, you're not saved because you endure to the end. Whatever your end is, you have endured unto the end. Okay, so don't complicate that. In verse 14, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, then shall the end come. Now, the gospel has been preached in every nation and island group in the world and published in many, in most, okay? In verse 15, when ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. This would be the image of the beast that will stand in the temple. This image can both speak and cause all those who will not bow and worship the image of the beast to be killed. This is some kind of a computer system that can that knows if you refuse to bow, and it can issue a warrant for your arrest and execution if you refuse. In verse 16, then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. When you see this abomination of desolation, you better run for your lives, precious Jewish children of God. Now, the Gentiles won't be here. The only Gentiles who are left here are those who are not born with the temple inside them. So if they're left here, they're toast. In verse 19, and woe unto them that are with child and to them that give suck in those days. That's going to be a very, very difficult time to have little children. In verse 20, and these would be children who are born after the evacuation, because all of the children of the world are going in the evacuation, which, you know, is on our timeline for September 10th or 11th. This year. Yeah, this year. And when the sixth seal opens on the 27th, if that is the sixth seal opening, then, and we see the sun turn dark, the quake, along with the blood moon, and then you'll see a war in heaven, we're going to know that it's time. And we'll be ready, and we will be able to tell you definitively after we see if the sixth seal effects arrive July 27th. If they do, then we can tell you for certain that we're leaving in September. Wouldn't that be great? I'm looking forward to that. All eyes on July 27th, definitely. Okay, in verse 20, but pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. Because, see, the Jews observe the law. If everything happens to where they have to run on the Sabbath day, it's going to be really bad for them, okay? Because they are, the second half is Old Testament. Because that's all the Jews know. And so they do not want to take off on foot or leave during the winter, neither on the Sabbath. And see, January When the abomination of desolation occurs, that's wintertime. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. The Jews only have 3.5 years. The first 3.5 years are for the Gentiles. In verse 23, then if any man shall say unto you, lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they should deceive the very elect. Now, the very elect are the Jews, okay? They can deceive the Jews, but not to the point of where they take the mark. Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. Now, what's interesting is I think I've told many of you that my friend in Israel told me, oh goodness, it's got to be 10, 15 years ago, that the rabbis were teaching the people that the Messiah was in a secret chamber in the desert waiting to be revealed.